Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat a little bit in a social commentary video about the fact that people really misuse a lot of the terms out there, and I don't think it's in their best interest to do so. And in this case, they use the term bodybuilder. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, the thing is, I'm not really going to make this an anti-bodybuilding video, right? People know I'm not a big fan of bodybuilding, even though I have friends and people who I think are awesome, people who I know who compete in bodybuilding. It's not my cup of tea. But the point I want to make here is that people will pigeonhole themselves into a label that may actually be limiting to them. It can be self-limiting. And in this case, bodybuilding, which is a competitive endeavor, guys who are out for the purpose of gaining muscle primarily will start labeling themselves a bodybuilder. Right? They'll label themselves a bodybuilder, but bodybuilder isn't two words. It's not a body builder, it's bodybuilder. It's one term. It's a competitive endeavor. And if you have never stepped on a stage, it doesn't matter how good you look, you're not a bodybuilder. And by that same token, Jason Genova is a bodybuilder. The guy has competed in bodybuilding shows and used plenty of anabolics and everything else, abused anabolics for that purpose, and obviously never won anything, but he's technically a bodybuilder, and you might look 50 times better than him. But you're not a bodybuilder if you don't compete, and he is. It's a very simple concept here to understand. Just like, even though I'm a power lifter, well, I don't even know if I count as a power lifter right now. I haven't competed in powerlifting in a few years. I don't currently have any meets signed up for. Not even a dues paying member of any current federations. Even though I am qualified to coach in WPC, I went ahead and took all the certs for that and passed all of that to be a coach or a referee for them. I mean, not a coach. So I can be a meet judge, and I've done that in the past. But I mean, I don't even know if I would count as a power lifter right now. I'm not training for any powerlifting meets. I don't have any on the schedule. I don't have any coming up I'm planning on entering, even though I've done it in the past and have medals and everything else. So it comes down to people using these terms and pigeonholing themselves. And if the act of trying to build muscle makes you a bodybuilder, then every NFL player who lifts weights is a bodybuilder. Every power lifter is a bodybuilder. Why? Because power lifters know that gaining muscle increases your squat, bench, and deadlift. Power lifters actively focus on gaining muscle, right? They want to get bigger. They want to gain muscle. It's part of powerlifting. It's part of every strength sport. So technically, if we use that term, every strength athlete, right? Every strength athlete, every football player, every wrestler, every MMA fighter, every person who is lifting weights trying to gain muscle, because if you're trying to gain strength, you have to gain muscle to gain strength beyond neuromuscular efficiency, goes hand in hand, is a bodybuilder then, right? See how silly that becomes? But that's not really what the people mean. They say that because they assume because they're training right now for gains, for hypertrophy, to get bigger or to look better, that they're a bodybuilder. And I would say that's not the case, because you know what? There's plenty of people who want to look better. A lot of people join a gym to look better. But let's be realistic here. By many people's standards, true bodybuilders don't look good. Bodybuilding has its own set of judging criteria that determines what you're supposed to look like that really, by normal standards, doesn't make you look good. So if you're part of the general population who's just going to the gym for the purpose of looking more attractive, you want to look better to the opposite sex, or you want to look better to the same sex if that's your prerogative, does anyone think actually becoming a real bodybuilder and looking like what would be considered to be a legitimate bodybuilder, that's not going to help your goals? So the whole point there is that you're not even using the term that's correct, because you probably don't even look like a bodybuilder, right? You don't even look like a bodybuilder. Most of you guys who are using that term, you don't look like Kai Green, you don't look like Phil Heath. Hell, you don't even look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he wouldn't be competitive in today's bodybuilding. He'd be laughed off the stage. He wouldn't be able to get a pro card. And you don't look like him either. You see the point? See, you're not a bodybuilder. You don't look anything like a bodybuilder. You don't look like a bodybuilder today. You're going to have to abuse drugs. You're going to have to inject massive amounts of oil into your biceps. You're going to need fake muscle implants, all sorts of stuff. That's what bodybuilding is. No, you people who just want to look better. You want to be healthier. You want to be in shape. Well, as soon as you start talking about, well, I want to feel better, I want to be healthier, well, you're no longer worried about bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a competition that wants you to look a specific way. Specific judging criteria in a competitive environment. No, you want to be healthier. And that's the beauty of not putting a label like that on yourself. That's the beauty of not pigeonholing yourself. You can just be a fitness enthusiast, and you know what? Your goals can change over time. You know, and I would tell people, obviously, if you do want to gain muscle and you want to be healthier and fitter and you want the health benefits of training, then there are certain things you need to do. You do need to be training your entire body. You know, you probably shouldn't be skipping on squats and things. But you know what? If you're someone who just trains because you want to be healthier, you want to look better, you want to be fitter, that's the majority of people who even train really seriously. They're not looking to compete in anything. You don't need a label. And in fact, by not having a label, you can follow whatever training program you want to follow, right? You follow whatever training program you want to follow. And if you feel like you need to add more biceps, then throw in some extra curls. That's fine. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. If you decide one day, hey, you've been doing all this training, you've been doing these other lifts, and you don't deadlift, and you just decide one day, you know, I'd kind of like to have a more impressive deadlift, you can go in and do that. And you don't have to put a label on that. That's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of it. You can be a guy who has done nothing but squats and a bunch of upper body work, and then decide one day you just want a better deadlift. You don't have to label yourself a power lifter to do that, right? You don't need a label. You don't have to consider yourself anything. You can just say, hey, I would kind of like to have a more impressive deadlift. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be fun. And go do it, right? There's nothing wrong with that, because that's the whole point of it. Why is it that we train? We train for various forms of gratification. We train because maybe we need the psychological release. Maybe it's therapeutic for a lot of us. It's therapeutic for me. I enjoy the hell out of it from that perspective. It's fun. It's challenging. It can be character building. Right? The goal of actively working towards self-improvement and putting in consistent work over the days, months, and years towards a self-improving endeavor, that in and of itself has value. That has value without a label. Just someone who trains. That has its own intrinsic value that doesn't need a label. You're just someone who resistance trains. You're someone who trains. You're someone who lifts weights. You don't need to say, hey, I'm a bodybuilder. You're a power lifter or anything else. You can come in and you can train for the personal fulfillment and character building you get from that, because it teaches discipline. It builds self-esteem. It boosts confidence. The very act of going in and just simply training. And you know what? You can be someone, or you can be someone who's just focused on health and fitness. And you know what? We know that strength training reduces cancer rates, reduces diabetes rates, reduces cardiovascular disease, right? Stops osteoporosis, slows down bone demineralization, helps with osteoarthritis. It helps with all these different health outcomes. So you know what? Do you need a label to go in and just train really hard? No, you don't. And that's the beauty of not having a label. You can come in and follow a really good program, a well-written program with different goals, and as your goals change, you can adjust your training. You can just be a well-rounded fitness enthusiast. I think that's a great term. How's that? A fitness enthusiast. Someone who resistance trains for fun and as a hobby, who doesn't compete in anything. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need a label to do that. And I think that's the problem we have here, is that we have a society where we want to label ourselves. We want to put a label on who we are. We want to put a word on our identity. It's just a big part of our society these days. You know, we want to break ourselves into these groups. We want to have this in-group, out-group bias, and we want to be part of something. But you know what? Training doesn't require you to be part of anything specific. You don't have to fall into any special subcategory of training. You don't have to be a CrossFitter to get along with other people who resistance train. You don't have to be a bodybuilder to have a group of people you fit in with. You don't have to be a power lifter to fit in with any specific group. You don't need one of these labels. In fact, if you're one of those people who just goes to the gym and trains hard and nobody knows what you are, do you know you tend to get respect from all the other people in all the groups? That's the beauty of resistance training. You already have a group of people who are going to respect you if you just come in and train hard. I mean, if you just come in and hell, you do whatever you want to do and either pick a squat or a deadlift and get decently strong at those, and you go to any gym, every single one of those groups of people, I don't care whether it's the bodybuilders, whether it's the power lifters, whether it's the strongman competitors, hell, whether it's CrossFitters, whether it's the Olympic lifters, if you do any one of those basic lifts and you're proficient at it and strong at it and people see you training hard at it, you're going to get a nod of respect from every single one of those other groups with a label on it, right? I've noticed that over the years. When I go into the gym and start deadlifting heavy, you start doing reps with anything over 500 pounds, All those other groups of people, they want to talk to you. They want to see what you're up to. They want to see what you're doing. You're already automatically accepted by every one of those subgroups the moment you come in and do anything respectable with a big weight. Particularly if you have good form, you're doing it right, you're training hard, you earn respect from every one of those groups of people. And as far as they're concerned, they accept you automatically. That's been my observation over the years. So you don't have to have a label to get respect from different groups of people. You don't have to have a label to do that. You can just be someone who lifts, and again, you tend to get acceptance anyway. So you don't need that label to get that socially, and you sure as hell don't need that label in order to get the health benefits or the psychological benefits or any of that we get out of training, right? So what's wrong with just coming in and training for gains? And people say, well, I train for hypertrophy. Well, that's silly. There is no such thing really as that. You know why? Every form of training builds muscle. And I'm going to say that again. Every single form of resistance training, if it actually has a training component, builds muscle. You're going to make gains. You're going to have hypertrophy because getting strong at singles does it. Getting strong at 3 reps does it. Getting strong at 10 reps does it. All of those build muscle. Hell, getting better at 20 rep sets builds muscle. So whatever you're doing, you're going to gain muscle if there's progressive overload there. Do you really need a label for that? Everyone is in there gaining muscle unless they're doing the exact same weight, reps, and sets. Unless you're just repeating the same thing, you're probably gaining muscle. Now, while you're cutting body fat, that might be what you need to do for the whole time because you're probably not gaining muscle. But you guys get the point. You don't need a label for that. You can just train. And in my experience, the moment we start putting labels on things is oftentimes when we put ourselves into a smaller box and we don't have as many options. If anything, it's self-limiting to put a label on yourself, particularly if you don't compete. And if you compete, I understand that competition has to be your primary goal. But if you don't compete in anything, I feel like these labels are self-limiting. I think they're self-limiting. They reduce the options that you have. Sometimes it's better to just be someone who really enjoys training, and you know what, you can change goals and focus from year to year a little bit based upon what you really think you would enjoy and would be more fulfilling in your life. It's just my opinion. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.